And we're back with a quick channel update. Also, what does Red Alert 2 have in common with Rimworld? So this is Red Alert, one of the old ones. Not the oldest, but one of the older ones. And this one was what taught me some of the very, very basics of strategy that effectively carries over to games that have been made long since. Now, I'm just going to go over what the actual meta of this game is, and it's basically build tanks. This sounds terribly stupid, but infantry are almost useless for reasons I don't want to go into, and tanks just turn out to be the best all-round unit for winning the game. So all that you do is you start the game, you build one of your little harvester thingies, well, power plant, harvester thingy. That harvester thingy goes out to start harvesting resources, and then you immediately build a war factory. And then when it comes to the factory, you're either going to start building tanks straight away, or one more harvester, and then lots of tanks. And the reason for this is because you die if you don't, because the other person is just going to build lots of tanks, and then once they've scouted you, if they see you have no tanks, they'll just run over and kill you because you haven't built the necessary number of tanks. Okay, but there is technology in this game. You can research a battle lab. So you can build a battle lab which will give you access to higher tech tanks that are more efficient than your lower tech tanks. That's great. Unfortunately, to build that battle lab, you first have to build the radar facility, and then you're going to need another power plant, otherwise you're going to redline your power grid, and you're also going to need to build a battle lab. All of this combined costs about 5.5 tanks. So the moment your opponent sees that you are 5.5 tanks shy, or sees you starting to build equipment, they will realise that so long as they keep building tanks, they will have more tanks than you, and they can just go over and crush you. So you can't actually tech up without getting killed. That's actually referred to in... This became referred to in strategy games as a tech switch. It's the point where you're switching over to a new technology, but that in-between time where you're switching from one tech to the other usually leaves you vulnerable, and that's why they called it the tech switch moment. So attacking someone while they're tech switching is a good way to murder them. Like I said, this game sort of is the granddaddy of a lot of the strategy terminology and just general playstyles we've come up with. So, what about base defense then, right? We can put down base defense. We could get a prism tower and put it down here and defend our base. That's great. Unfortunately, that costs money to build one of those prism towers, and it's also going to require power. So you're going to be 2 or 3 tanks shy. But once it's down, you're defending yourself. Well...
Construction complete.
Yeah. You've now got this area covered. However, they will just take their extra couple of tanks, go around the back of your base, and kill your harvesters. So now all your harvesters are dead, and you've got no money coming in. Then they just have to wait for a bit until you're starved, and they've got way more tanks than you, and then rush in and kill you, and even though you've got some base defense, it makes no difference. So you can't build base defense. Or you could build base defense here, and you could build base defense in your harvesting area. And then it's like, yes, well, now I've got it covered. Well, great, but then they're just going to expand across the rest of the map, take all of the resources, outproduce you, have more tanks than you, and then come in and crush you while you slowly starve out. Now, there is some nuance here, of course. There are going to be some strategies you can employ, some rushes and tactics like that. But let's just have a quick go over some of the other wonderful things this genre of game gifted us. That is, rush distance. What that refers to is how long it takes for you to get your tank from your base to their base. Now, if you're really close, what might happen is, well, you can get your tank there before they even get out their first harvester, which means they can't even build a harvester. They have to build a tank straight away, otherwise your tank will get them. So instead, what they do is everyone starts building, tanks straight away. But if the rush distance is long enough, which it normally is, depending on a smart map, you can normally get out one harvester to increase your resource income, and then still get a tank out. And due to the distance between the two bases, if the other person had instantly built a tank and drove it towards your base, your first tank is going to come out just after that harvester, just as their first tank arrives, meaning you get to defend yourself and, do a little bit of an economy build. But of course, this results in, let's just say, the other person's going to realise that. They realise that building a tank straight away and attacking you is pointless, because you're going to have your tank just as they get there, and you're going to have double economy because you've got your harvester out. So instead what they do is they build a harvester first as well, and then everyone's building a harvester first. And then some smarty pants figures out, wait a minute, I've got an idea. If everyone's building a harvester first, why don't I build 2 harvesters first? Because they'll build their harvester, then they'll build a tank, and then by the time their tank gets to me, my second harvester will have completed, and I'll have just built my first tank. So now I'll have 3 harvesters, they'll only have 2, and I'll still have stopped their tank. And that's called the economy play. So they've discovered to go economy. And then other people cop on, and then you've got some people going economy and some people going the standard. And then some of the rush people figure out, wait a minute, like 70% of people are playing economy. If I just rush my first tank over there, they'll be like starting to build their second harvester. My tank will get there and they'll die. Well, okay, this is very simplified. But that's how we ended up with the rush play, normal or standard or safe, and then you've got your eco play. So that was basically the three differences between them. And the rush distance varies depending on how big the maps are and how far it is from your spawn location to theirs, but that was the origin of the rush distance, rushes, normal play, eco play, and then there's the meta, which is the currently most popular strategy, as in, is rushing popular, is economy popular, is normal popular, and it sort of varies back and forth as people get their butts handed to them on the ladder in terms of, oh, everyone's rushing at the moment, so I'm going to play safe, or everyone's ecoing at the moment, so I'm going to rush. So what on God's green earth does all of that have to do with the type of games I play and modern gaming in general? Well, people always ask me, why don't I build turrets in RimWorld? Well, it's because of Red Alert. It taught me you don't build turrets. Hear me out here, hear me out. In RimWorld, the wealth of your colony is determined by how much stuff you have. So building turrets in my kill box would just mean that I've added more wealth to my colony, which is going to increase the size of the raids that come in. But not every raid's going to come into my kill box. Some of them are going to try and hamstring me by going attacking my harvesters or my supply lines. And I'm going to need to have a mobile defense force, like say, I don't know, tanks, with as much armament and damage as I can possibly get. So I try and invest all of my resources and money into a mobile defense force that can go around and target all the enemies. And this was not something I learned in RimWorld. This was something I learned in Red Alert back when it was released in, oh wow, 2000 it was released in. Damn, or maybe it was Tiberian Sun. I can't remember. But that knowledge that I picked up then, or that information, was what has shaped my decisions in lots of games going forward. It's just something that intrinsically gets hammered into you, and you don't even realize it until you have to think back and go, wait, why do I make these decisions? When I play Oxygen Not Included, I strip mine the map. And it wasn't Oxygen Not Included that taught me to do that. What taught me to do that was, well, Red Alert. Can't build tanks out of resources that are lying around on the ground. No, you have to go and dig those resources up. So when I was playing this game and I saw that there was resources out there like iron and such like, my immediate response was, oh, I should really go harvest all those resources so I can turn them into useful things. Was this the best course of action? No, but it was sort of what was ingrained into me from all of the previous games I had ever played. And we carry along so many games that we've played in the past, and the lessons they have taught us just get carried over and rolled into the next game. This game here is Vampire Survivor. This is a great time waster game, but I wouldn't say it's strategically complicated. However, I can explain it to you and you will immediately recognize the strategy everyone's going to pick. What you do here is you have to fight off hordes of things for 30 minutes. And every time you kill something, they drop these gems. Well, not every time, but they drop experience. And the more experience you get, the more weapons you get to choose from. So you get to choose from 6 weapons and 6 passives. And there's some defensive weapons that, will help you defensively, and some defensive passives like, extra health and movement speed and armor and stuff like that. And no one uses any of those, right? There's no need for anything defensive, because if you gain experience from killing stuff, then your best bet is to just invest in more stuff that kills stuff to get more experience to get more stuff that kills stuff. Now, there is some extra complexity on top of that, but for anyone who has played computer games for any series of time, you sort of recognize the trends in mechanics and what you were trying to exploit. I'm not saying there aren't variants of this type of game that require a little bit more subtlety, and even this one has some subtleties built in, but at the end of the day, we all sort of recognize these trends throughout the mechanics of all games we play. Okay, enough of my rambling. Channel update time. We managed to finish the RimWorld series. That was probably the darkest game of anything I have ever played in my life. I have no idea how it spiraled that badly out of control, but yeah, I'm kind of glad it's over. That was pretty dark indeed. But I think I end up saying that about all the RimWorld episodes I end up playing at one point or another. But at the same time, we also finished the Satisfactory playthrough. Quite enjoyed the Satisfactory one. That was actually quite an interesting game, though I'm not sure how much there is left to stretch in the mechanics there. This game has a lot of potential for making stupendously large factories. It's just the problem I find is it's all on the same template. For example, in Oxygen Included, you can make a rocket chimney, which is just, generating power from rocket exhaust. You can't really do things like that here. Here you sort of just have to use, well, whatever's available. Like, if I want to make a component, there's only one way to really do it. Well, you might have multiple recipes, but there's no real way to do something outside of the intention of the game mechanics. It's more just a case of making bigger and bigger and bigger factories. Not necessarily a bad thing, but I think a lot of this game is tied up in the aesthetics of it, how pretty you make your factory and doing it up. It's more like House Hunters, but for factory people, It's just not really that motivated to go around making the prettiest factories. That just takes time. I like brutal efficiency, I think it was how it was described. Even if that... Oh my god, look at that belt intersection. Oh, I'm pretty sure that's going to give people seizures. Never mind, never mind. Look back there, look. Mostly normal. Mostly normal. Up next, I'm thinking it's time to go back to some oxygen not included spaced out. They've got this new flipped asteroid I want to try out. Actually, there's a whole bunch of other random stuff here, but you can get all sorts of random traits for all of them. Let's just try medium boulders and metallic caves. Just to give you a preview of what I'm thinking we're going to be playing. The start looks fairly standard, but there is something a little bit unusual. It's called a flipped asteroid because all the magma's on top. That makes gaining space access just a little bit tricky, it seems. Though you do get the standard teleporters here. I'm going to presume those things go to the oil-based one. Yeah, this has got, what, cosmic radiation, oil reservoirs, yeah, space, barren, jungle, and oily. So we can go there to get oil. Wait, will we be able to get... There's no swamp biome there, so good luck getting any reed fiber for Atmos suits. That's going to make things difficult. Normally I'd run 2 series simultaneously, but I think I'm actually just going to focus on 1 series at a time and give it a go. I kind of liked when I was doing that in RimWorld because it meant I could focus on an episode and then the moment I was done I could keep going and keep my place in my head. I don't know if this will work, I just want to give it a try. So I want to try and go just straight up on doing 1 series and then when it's finished move on to the next sort of thing. Just to see if it changes things up at all. Sorry about the lack of content this week, but making that video, the Floor of Dreams one, that one almost broke me. It turns out there's a lot of editing involved in that, and I'm not exactly very good at editing. It took a lot of playing around to figure that out. I spent about 4 days on that, just working morning to night. Yeah, it seems that editing stuff is really, really hard. Remind me never to do that again. This Black of as Coal playthrough of RimWorld maybe brought up a few questions with friends of mine, like, you know, like, are you a sociopath and stuff like that? And it's like, no, I took a test, I'm good. But I think this brings up a very interesting question. Is a game what it looks like, or is a game its mechanics? For example, we could take this game here, RimWorld, and we could change it so that they're not people anymore, they're cyborgs, robots. And instead of having a brain, they would have a CPU. Instead of having blood, they'd have oil, and keep all the other mechanics the same. Right? It would be a bit difficult to explain why robots need to have relaxation and stuff, but still, it would be effectively the exact same game, but with robots. Then what I'm doing would be... Would that be nearly as bad? You wouldn't actually be eating people, you'd be recycling machines to feed to other machines. Or, actually wait, I got a better example. This year is Candy Crush. I have never played Candy Crush before. Actually wait, I have now played Candy Crush. This is not exactly my type of game, let's say, but this is hugely popular. One of those games that just like swept around like a craze. And all you do is you line 3 things up and it gives you, you get a crush thingy. So, there, yeah, boom. You know, things get crushed. However, what if we were to take this candy and replace it with something not so pleasant? Say puppies. We'll take it and replace it with puppies. There you go. And now it's Puppy Crusher. You're actually crushing puppies. Now, I can guarantee you that game would have not been nearly as popular. But why are people playing Candy Crush? Are people playing Candy Crush for the candy? Or are they playing it for the game mechanics of lining things up in a row and watching them get crushed? That's the thing. If you hang around on gaming forums long enough, you'll eventually come across those people who start arguing about what a hardcore gamer is. And, okay, despite that being quite a ridiculous thing, let me try something here. The difference between a hardcore gamer, which is still a ridiculous term, and a casual gamer is the hardcore gamer, they don't see the game as a game anymore. They just see it as a grouping of mechanics of previous games they've played. It's less, they don't see the skin of the game anymore. To them, the skin of the game doesn't count. It's the muscles and sinews and the mechanics underneath it that matter. For people who are more casual, the shiny stuff is a little bit more popular. That's why a lot of the AAA games are so shiny and they invest so much time in shining them up. I think that's another reason why you'll find that a lot of the people who identify as more gamers, they end up playing the more niche games. There have been a few suggestions for the next RimWorld series, just, you know, things that we could do. Oh, yeah, this is going to be an animal explosion. This has been updated since. Also, this save file, it used to take 40 plus minutes to load. Now it only takes about 2. I don't know if that's the upgraded computer or the patches that they released for it that changed everything, or maybe a bit of both. But when it comes to doing a playthrough, what I normally like to do is I usually just pick an idea and run with it as far as you can. So in this one it was, we're going to hire everyone until the game falls over. And that's sort of what we did. But that resulted in us having to make, well, just enormous crop areas and just had to redesign our whole base and our whole way of equipping and everything. We couldn't really specialize anything too much because you just had too many people. So that one decision affected the game the whole way through. The Murder Munchkin series was all about, hey, what if we could only settle a tile for a few days at a time? We're not allowed to stay for more than a couple of seasons, and we just have to keep hopscotching around the place. And that really determined that we had to get all casters because there was no other way to survive, and it sort of determined our playstyle, our builds, our defenses. Everything was designed around just that one decision. So there might be suggestions for something like doing a start, naked brutality where you start with nothing, but that won't mutate the later stages of the game. That's just making the start of the game harder. Once you stabilize, then what do? The start wouldn't really affect. So for example, just say you made it that, you have to do a build where all of your pawns have to use sniper rifles, right? Everyone has to use snipers or bolt actions. That would determine that the shape of your base would be completely different. Your kill box would be completely different. You'd have to lay out your corridors and defenses completely differently to take advantage of your range. But at the same time, you wouldn't like anyone getting too close to you. Would you go with the jogger trait? Aim for the jogger trait so people could, kite enemies? Or maybe you want the quick shooter trait to increase your rate of fire so you could actually get more damage out per second. I'm not actually sure what I want to do for the next playthrough just yet. I'll give it a bit of time. Maybe something will come to me, but I might go with just heavily modded. Do a nice heavily modded playthrough using one or two really big mods that changes the game entirely. I don't know. I'm going to have to see. Or maybe I can come up with another just singular idea that would completely mutate the game from one thing to another. There's also the 25 and 25. That might be a quick one. 25 and 25 is you get 25 pawns and you have to get off the planet before 25 seasons hit. And the amount of pawns you manage to successfully escape with and the amount of seasons it takes you gives you a score, basically. With the new ideology stuff, you could probably do some pretty crazy stuff with that. There's definitely ones that, I might do a quick one of that. That should only take like 12, 15 episodes. That'd be a nice quick one to try. Anyway, I'm going to cut this out here. I hope you enjoyed and good luck.